Hello and welcome to the Dreaming and Doing podcast with me, Nicky Raby. I'm an actor, coach, writer, speaker, podcaster and a mum. And in my coaching work, I work with creatives, personal brands, freelancers and small businesses. In my podcast, I talk about success, but not in a traditional sense. I have conversations with those who have built a business from something they love or who have made a pivot in their career. Also those who have built a brand or a job that maybe didn't exist when they were at school, and they found a way to monetize their skills, talents and expertise. I've spoken to loads of incredible people, coaches, designers, journalists, app creators, magazine editors, bloggers, content creators, authors, and all-round movers and shakers. I ask the questions that you want to know the answer to. So how they started, about money, saying no, saying yes, pitching, presenting, putting yourself out there even though it terrifies you, standing out in a busy online world, growing, scaling and making your work for you and your circumstances. The show notes are always at nickyraby.com/podcast, and the conversation continues across social media, often on Instagram, my favourite platform, at Nicky Raby. Thanks so much for listening. It's great to have you with us. In today's episode, I talk to Jo Love, who is the founder of Lobella Loves. And I wanted to talk to Jo today because I love the two elements to her business. Not only is it an online marketplace for mums and new babies and maybe the occasional dad as well, but also that she's built a business that is going to give back. And certainly when I had my baby, I was bombarded with all of these things that I felt like I should be having. But actually, I wasn't necessarily thinking about how I could take care of myself. And I was surprised, well, I don't know why really, but I was surprised that I didn't look like the woman who was kind of looking glorious with a blow dry in a rocky chair like the woman in the John Lewis catalogue. If anything, I just looked like I was piecing myself back together. Anyway, we'll go into more detail in the episode. If you want to come and join in the conversation, please come over to Instagram at Nicky Raby, or you can go to the show notes, nickyraby.com/podcast. Also as well in the episode, just to give you a word of warning, we do talk about postnatal depression and some mental health issues. So if any of that is triggering for you, I will leave some links in the show notes as well of places there where there may be additional support as well. So I just wanted to flag that up before we start. Also, if you really enjoy the episode, please like and review and subscribe and share and all that good stuff. We're aiming for 1 million plays by Christmas, so I would really appreciate any help that you can give. That's it from me today. Enjoy the episode. Here it is. Hi Jo, welcome to the podcast.
Hello, how are you?
I'm really good, thank you. Really good. It's a gloomy Monday morning or afternoon in London, but yeah, we're all in that kind of back to school feeling of like new pencil cases, new stationery, all that good stuff. Let's. Would you mind just telling us to kick us off with like what's your business and what you do and what you're all about?
Sure. I think that's probably the trickiest question. Well, I'm Jo, and I run an online marketplace called Lobella Loves, and it has unique gifts for baby mum and children, and it's basically like not on the high street. But I found as a busy parent, not on the high street, way too much stuff on there. And it was all a bit overwhelming and a lot of the same products. And I thought there's so many lovely brands out there, really small independent brands. There's some really cool stuff happening on Instagram. But I'm just not able to find it as a parent. I've got no time. My scrolling time, I mean, actually, it sort of ups in some ways. You're breastfeeding in the middle of the night, but you don't have the capacity to remember where you've seen that amazing thing. And then you end up going to John Lewis and buying the same old thing as everything. And,
and then realising you've been in there 4 hours and you're like, hang about, oh no, it's 4 o'clock already. I need to get home.
What did I come in for? Yeah. And just grabbing something. So I was like, right, let's make it all online. Let's make it really super easy. Let's make sure that there's PayPal. We also do a great thing that makes sure that there's free shipping, because often if you use other marketplaces like Not on the High Street or eBay or Etsy, you can sometimes pay more for your shipping than you do for the 3 items, because they're all coming from different sellers. So 3 items in your basket. So it's always free shipping to the UK standard. So I just had a bit of an eye, and I was like, right, I don't think this really exists in this form, and let's go for it. I used to be a lawyer, and had a baby, and that didn't work out, which we can get into. And I also suffered really badly with postnatal depression when I had my little girl, which was 3 years ago now. And so I wanted to do whatever I wanted. I knew I wanted to move on from law, and whatever that was, I knew that I needed to have helping mums. And I always had this mantra, and I still have it, is that if I helped just one mum feel less alone in those horrible days of postnatal depression, my job would be done. So I looked very, very early to make the business and the DNA and the heart and the soul and the blood and everything about the business to do with helping mums who are suffering with maternal mental health issues. So we give money from every single sale through the platform. So if you were to buy one thing, we would give money. If you buy 30 things, in some ways it's better. Well, it's a percentage, but I would give it, if you bought it on 30 different occasions, I would give it every time you buy, to maternal mental health charities. And we currently work with a London-based charity, because I'm London-based myself, but we're looking to expand that out at the moment. So I'm talking to different charities. But the charity that I do work with, they have lottery funding, which means all of their back office business function is all covered by that. So it means every single penny that we give them goes directly to help women who are really suffering. So it might be in a mum and baby unit, or might need intensive counselling. They also do wonderful things like they will provide childcare while you get therapy. Just brilliant things. So it's really baked into the heart of what I do. And then I very early on got onto Instagram because somebody told me that I should. And it just, I had no idea what it was. I didn't use it personally. I thought it might be for making photos look pretty, like a filtering app.
Taking pictures of your Sunday lunch.
Yeah, I didn't even realise the social aspect. I genuinely think I thought it was just to make, put a filter on and then you share it on Facebook. I didn't understand Instagram. Anyway, so I got on there. And it just grew because I was telling my story and talking about mental health in a way that is becoming much more, wonderfully is becoming much more open topic. But at the time I started, and certainly at the time I was suffering really, really badly with it, I felt very alone and isolated. So it's sort of just grown from there. So
well, I love the double side of your business in the way that you are sharing all those lovely gifts. And I remember those first early weeks of having a baby, that it was so exciting. The doorbell would ring and things would arrive, and then after a while there is that stark moment of oh wow, the days are long, the medication is starting to wear off, I'm in quite a lot of pain, the sleep is not going to get any better anytime soon, and certainly people are telling me this all the time, and it suddenly hits you like a ton of bricks of sort of having that overwhelming feeling. Did you know that you wanted to, were you still a lawyer sort of during your maternity leave?
Yeah, absolutely. So I didn't set up the business until Bella that's my little girl, was 2. So, I had my maternity leave. And then I also went back as a lawyer for another year. So I had a year off as maternity, and then I had another year. So I didn't, and I think there is huge pressure these days for mums to come up with business ideas on their maternity leave and to be doing it all. And to be honest with you, I absolutely would not have been able to do it in my maternity leave without a shadow of a doubt. I was a shell of a person. I was just trying to find out who I was again. I just totally lost myself at that point in time. And I think there is enormous pressure on women to feel that they have to be doing it all, and doing it all these days is also being a boss businesswoman. And I think that's really, really tricky. No, I didn't do it until she was a little bit older. And had gone back as a lawyer and realised that my ambitions weren't what they were post-baby. Also, my postnatal depression had really changed me. I think once you hit rock bottom in your life, whatever that rock bottom might look like, when you start to rebuild yourself, you are changed. We are the sum of our experiences, aren't we? And motherhood didn't just change. Motherhood changes a lot of people, but motherhood combined with having a mental health condition really rocked me. And I realised I was a different person, and it didn't really fit with what I wanted to do. It being a legal career. So yeah, decade as a lawyer came to an end, and I actually have to say I don't regret it at all. It was right for the time, but it's not right for me now.
Yeah, and I think that's such a brilliant thing in this sort of day and age, that we can have different chapters of our lives, that we don't have to have that career for life anymore, that the world of work is really changing and moving and pivoting, and actually we can go, yeah, well, I did this and now I do this, and then I do a bit of this and a bit of this, and that's really exciting to me. That, thank God, I mean, you know, I'm sure I would have been some sort of prison officer if I'd chosen it when I was 16, because I was like, oh, I've been watching a lot of The Bill, so I'll do that, and you know, it's probably wouldn't have been the right move for me.
Yeah, and I think you're totally right, and I think people, particularly in professions like, you know, the old school professions like law, like medicine, you do feel a little bit more trapped than some of the sort of more modern careers. And I think it's not necessarily healthy if it's not working in that phase of your life, which it certainly wasn't for me as a mum. We don't need to be trapped in these careers that are making us miserable. We can go and do other stuff. It's sort of the Emma Gannon, you know, model of the multi-hyphen, the slashy. You can do that, even if you think that you couldn't possibly do anything else. You can.
Yeah, I mean, how did you start using a whole different skill set? It's so hard to say. Skill set. Did you know that you had online shopkeeper in up your sleeve, you know, when you were a kid, or did you have that entrepreneurial spirit, or did you have to basically learn it all?
I definitely didn't have online online retail. I want to have an online marketplace. I mean, it just didn't exist. So
no, we didn't even have the internet at school. So yeah, that's so true.
One of my friends are saying, you know, what do you want Bella to be when she grows up? I'm like, oh, probably something that's not even invented yet.
Right, exactly.
But no, I always liked things. That sounds so flippant, but I really liked things. I've got a good eye for sort of the unusual or the nice things, and I'm quite creative, and that didn't really have any outlet for that in law. And but I also felt the entrepreneurial pull. It was just that I didn't feel that I had an idea. Also, I was in a very comfortable career. I had good money. There was no reason to swap it all. And then there was, and I'd had the idea, and I thought, why don't I just go for it? And I think something about being a mum and, you know, feeling empowered that you can do this incredible thing of giving birth to a human. You make a human. I mean, it's just mind-blowing when you think about it.
Having done it, I'm still slightly confused that the baby that I was carrying is now the baby that's in the world, where you're just like, wow, how did that all happen?
I know, it's crazy, right? So I think you just do get this little sense of achievement by it, and you can go and do anything. And then, I should say that I was a very geeky type of lawyer. I was incredibly geeky type of lawyer. I was a competition lawyer, which is essentially economics and law. Even the tax lawyers used to take the piss out of the competition lawyers. It's nothing to do with tombolas or raffles. It's looking at an economic market and economic models. I found it interesting, but it was terribly, terribly dull. So there was nothing about that. But I should say that just having an eye for detail, thinking about every eventuality which you have to do as an entrepreneur, but also 90% of the work that I did was for a very large online retailer, maybe beginning with A.
Oh, interesting.
So I had, to then be now owning my own online marketplace isn't the biggest stretch, but what I did for them was very, 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 very different to what I do now. But I certainly was lawyering in the online tech space.
Yeah, that's so cool. And also to be able to do that while you're doing it for somebody else rather than going, okay, I'm going to start this and it will all be fine. I mean, so I guess what were the practical steps that you took in terms of building the brand and knowing what it was going to be? Did you have a strategic process, or have you had no process? Equally, that is fine as well.
There was a bit of process. Actually building the business, I just did everything very step by step. So register at Company's House, and then I did all the legal stuff first because I know all of that, and then I just started to build it up. I think in terms of building the brand, so like I said, I think Instagram has been huge for me, and it's something that I didn't really realise it until I'd started on my business journey. I hadn't launched the business by any stretch of the imagination, but I'd already come up with the idea and the concept, and I'd started thinking about how it was all going to work. And I was sat talking to a friend, and she said to me, well, I know why an online marketplace curated by Jo Love is going to be epic. Like, I know that because you've got great taste.
We all need these pals, don't we, who go, whatever it is, you've not created it yet, it's going to be ace. Like, because you can have so many moments of self-doubt sometimes when you're like, who am I to do this? Or like, is this ever going to work? Or am I going to, all of that sort of, the negative committee come out to play, don't they?
We do that to ourselves. And I think then the interesting thing she said is, I know this, but why would anyone else know this?
Oh.
So it was actually like the twist in it. So she was being really lovely and like supporting me. She's like, but why would anyone else know it? You've got to get onto Instagram. That's where everyone is. And you've got to be pumping your taste out there. Like, yes, you don't have any product yet. So I hadn't got any sellers at this point in time. I didn't have a logo. I didn't have any product because the product comes from the sellers. I'm not producing anything. So I had a friend who, so she said, so the crucial part of what she said to me was that, yeah, I know why an online marketplace curated by Jo Love is going to be awesome, but why would anyone else know? And that was like the lightning bolt moment. Yes, like the penny drop moment of, I need to be getting it out there, getting my taste out there, making sure that people know what's coming. Just spread your message, just get your aesthetic out there. Because I had no sellers, I had no product, and I had no logo at this point in time. So I started off on Instagram. Also, very crucially, wanted to talk about mental health. So it was building this little community before I had really anything to show, which was so crucial. So not that I knew it. So I then started on that plan, and I was like posting on Instagram the whole time and talking about my journey and talking about also products that I liked, and they're kind of putting nice looking quotes out there, and you just doing the Instagram thing. And then that really sort of took on, because then when I was approaching sellers, they could see that I'd already had like some following on Instagram, and people then felt that I wasn't, because now there's a few of us trying to do the same sort of thing, and they were getting approached by lots of different people. And if they can see somebody who's got sort of a bit of social proof, it just helps them say, oh, I'll give you a punt rather than someone else. So when I launched the business, like launch day one of the marketplace, I already had 2,000 followers on Instagram who'd been following my sort of build-up journey. And then it just sort of skyrocketed from there, which was really exciting. But it wasn't really a thought-out plan. And then after that, it sort of semi-wasn't. And then after that, just speaking more and more about mental health. Again, that wasn't really a plan as such. I just knew I really wanted to help women feel less alone. I really wanted the business to give back money in a tangible way. And so I really knew I needed to explain why I was doing that. And why I was doing that was because I'd struggled so badly in those early days. And so then I started talking about my mental health. And what I realise as well now is I used to talk about my mental health in the early days as something that was in the past. Oh, I had postnatal depression, and almost like And I'm okay now. I definitely don't do that because I've had then periods of really, well, I think my postnatal depression lasted a lot longer than I thought it did. Then periods of depression, and then PTSD, if you can believe it, from my postnatal depression, which is just a sort of crazy turn of events. So I've sort of brought my followers along the journey and hoped at some point they might become customers. And that is just sort of where I've been with it for a while, to be honest.
I feel that that's so key to success as well, that actually the more certainly with the coaching side of things, I know there's such a, not a pressure, but there's like these set formulas of like, here's how you go from 6 figures to 7 figures, or here's how you up your mailing list in 3 easy steps or whatever. And actually the marketplace is getting quite crowded now, and lots of people are sort of open to these ideas, but you have to share a bit of yourself, because otherwise how are you going to be different? And people, the story behind the brand is so important these days.
So crucial. Somebody said to me, "You're the difference that makes the difference." And it's so true. And it's what a lot of the really big brands are struggling with, that smaller brands can really take advantage of, because the big brands are trying desperately to inject personality into their brands and trying to get to get us all into what they're doing, because they know this is what's working, and it's what's working for smaller brands. And it's so easy for a smaller brand just to share, particularly if you're somebody who makes something behind the scenes, all of that stuff. They just are trying to do it and not doing it in the same ways, because everybody wants to know the people behind the brands. This is just happening. And I think it certainly wasn't a calculated move, but it was something that I felt I knew it would all serve my end goal, and my end goal is to help that one woman feel less alone.
And ultimately, that would be the message that you carried through, that, whether you change from an online platform to going around with a food truck and handing out sandwiches to people who are like feeding in the street, your mission would still be the same. And I heard this brilliant branding workshop actually about, it's not necessarily the products, it's the behind the scenes stuff of what you're bringing to the table.
Completely agree. And I was talking about this to somebody the other day, and they said, well, you've just got your North Star, haven't you, Joe? And you just pivot around your North Star. So whatever you're doing, if in 10 years' time you don't have a marketplace, but let's say you had, I don't know, whatever is like the newest thing, as long as your message, which you know what your message is, your North Star is, and you're following that at all times, which you are, no one will think it's weird. Like, I run events now. That's like pretty far from an online marketplace, because it's in person and it's and it's nothing to do with selling products. We don't sell anything there, and it's still Lobella Loves. It's still, people see it still as all part of the same brand. And yeah, I think when you're doing your tax return or whatever, if you've got your North Star there, you're following that. You can kind of helps with the more boring bit.
Yeah, really. I did a post about this earlier of sort of, getting all my receipts in order, and I had a couple of hours sort of free time, and I was really just sort of, because I guess it's, even though I'm logical and organized, it's not the part of my business that I really enjoy. So I can easily get distracted and go, I've got to do this because I'm really excited about it. But actually these things need to be organized and done. And so you can grow. That was one thing I was going to ask you about. How, as the business owner, do you concentrate not only on the day-to-day stuff of the things that keep the wheels turning and the things in motion, but also how you're growing the business, how you're bringing awareness? How do you organize your time in that way?
I'd love to say it's really thought out, and I'd love to be thought out, because I am quite logical and I like being strategic. But as a business person, it has just not, I think the one thing that is not kind of what you asked, but it's sort of on the same thing. I think the one thing that shocked me from being a lawyer before and loving data and being really quite geeky is I thought that I would do a lot more of that move in my business. And because I love that. And even though I do, and I think I do a lot more than other people, like we were just chatting before we started, and we were talking about you looking at stats, and I definitely look at mine. But not anywhere near as much as I thought I would, and not anywhere near as much as I think I should. And maybe then that's okay. That's just where I am. But I think particularly when you're starting out, before you've got like departments working for you and teams and even just people, you've just got to work out how to split your time, haven't you? And really, not sadly, but the reality is a lot of your time, so much of your time goes to making it all function. And particularly in my business, I've got 200 sellers. If they all just ask a 5-minute question, never a 5-minute question, it's always a lot more. That is like weeks worth of work, then, which is totally fine, but it can like knock out, a 5-minute question can basically knock out like a whole day, which is
yes.
Answer it.
Especially if you like these people as well. I mean, considering that, because it is your thing, that you will have brought people on. So actually it's all stuff that you love talking about and chatting through and brainstorming ideas that you have to go, oh no, actually I can't be doing that.
I know, and it's really, really hard. And then customers wanting to talk to the brand that they know, the one that they're ultimately putting their trust in and putting their credit card details into, and if they've got a question, rather than going to the sellers, they come to us, and all of those things that just I very naively thought having a marketplace would be akin to passive income. I really, really, really underestimated how much work goes into it. And I think I thought, well, I'm not making anything and I'm not shipping anything out, and I couldn't have been more naive about that. And it's something
I'm so thrilled that you said that, not because like things have been different, but because again there is such I just work 2 hours a week and I make 10 grand a month, and it's just it takes a long time to get to that moment. And I'm 5 years into my coaching journey now, and it's only now certain elements I'm like, gosh, I can really see the return on that.
Yeah, completely agree.
I mean, I don't want to squash anybody's like, oh no, I've got to wait another 4 years. But I think, sometimes it's not just going to be one thing that changes everything. It's going to be a number of things that all complement each other.
Exactly. No, I totally agree. And I do try and I have each year I have a marketing plan. Sort of getting back to your original question, I have a marketing plan. I have a business plan. I am strategic in wanting to make sure that I thought about everything. But in the day to day, it tends to sometimes get a bit lost. But I will, at the beginning of every year, have a big planning meeting with a couple of people who do work for me. I'm very lucky. And just work out what we're doing. But it's not to the level that I thought that I would be on a sort of like weekly or a daily, thinking about strategy.
Yeah.
But that's what I get with it, haven't you, sometimes?
Exactly. And I think sometimes you can feel like you're doing everything by the book and you're filling out these things, but sometimes you just have to go with what feels instinctive and what feels right. And sometimes those moments that you say a random yes to, they can change things. Or you there's a last minute ticket, for example, to an event, and you end up going and then you meet the person that you're supposed to meet. And yeah, it's interesting. I was going to say, like, how do you keep, because I guess you're in that serving space of being a great handler of customers and making people feel comfortable and in the purchasing and feeling heard and connected. How do you also, because like you and I, we all need this, how do you keep yourself topped up as well? What boundaries, I love that word, what boundaries have you put in place for yourself to make sure that you can show up in a way that feels good to you?
I think that's such a great question. And I think, again, if anybody's starting out in a business, I think it's something that I wish I thought about earlier, maybe. I think for me, it's been a bit of a weird one, because I came from corporate law where there basically are no boundaries. Your work, to coin a very old phrase, you sell your soul.
Yeah. My family are all lawyers, and I saw that it was like, well, just because it's 6 o'clock, it doesn't mean that we're going home now.
Oh gosh, no. Like, I wouldn't leave until 7 as standard, so I wouldn't ever be home before 8, ever, ever, ever. And that was a normal day. So if I'm actually busy, God, no, I wouldn't. I just like, there have been days where I wouldn't leave the office. Like, and it's not that I would go to sleep there would be no sleeping. So I think given that backdrop, when I then could hold the keys to my own time, being a business owner, I found that so liberating. But it's really, really dangerous that I would have all these things where I would like, okay, well, I'm going to take the afternoon off and I'm going to do this, or I'm going to go for a run at lunchtime because I can. But meaning I actually wasn't stopping working. I cut out TV a little while ago, and because it gave me then more time. And I've started to realise that these things actually are very unhealthy. It's really taken a lot for me to take a bit of a step back and say, I'm close to burnout again, and this is actually possibly more dangerous because I've sort of chosen it.
Yes.
Because it's very, very hard to switch off when you've got your own business. So with your question in mind, what have I done? I got it wrong, I think, and now I'm starting to put things right. So I try and be flexible with it, but I try and schedule start to organise my week so that I have a little bit, because every day is different to me, but a little bit of regularity. So on Tuesdays, I know that I'm going to try and do all my social media posts and plan things for the week. On Wednesdays, I'm going to try and do all of my out of the house meetings. Fridays, there's certain things I do and I don't do. Monday mornings, I don't work because I just don't have to, because it's my own business, and try not to do split shifting, which is something my counsellor alerted me to that I was doing. That was it's very, very, very difficult to not do this if you've got your own business and a child. But basically, working all day, then she, once nursery's finished, pick her up, give her tea, put her to bed, do bath, bed, and then 7:30 starting again for the night.
Yes.
And I used to call it like ramping up again, and my counsellor used to be like, do you not realise how unhealthy this language is, Jo? Like, you're ramping up again. And then no time for the husband, no time for friends, no time for TV, no time for switching off, and then be Instagramming seconds before going to sleep, and then before I've even opened my eyes, be reaching for my phone and Instagramming again, and not Instagramming in a pleasurable, like just randomly scrolling mind off way, but I'm working, I'm posting, I'm thinking, I'm creating content. And it got very close to burnout again, and I think that scared me because I knew the feelings of burnout because I'd had that as a lawyer. And so now just trying to structure things. I've got a rule in the morning that I won't look at my phone. I can't be this. I'm not ever going to be the person who puts their phone downstairs to charge. I'm just not going to be. It's not me, and I'm not going to feel guilty about that not being me as well. So I will. So I have some rules though. So it's before I look at my phone, I have to have seen a cloud. So that generally means that I've given my husband a cuddle, which I just was neglecting to do. I've got out of bed, I've opened the curtains, and I've looked at a cloud. It is literally just looking at a cloud.
And this is not the iCloud of the internet. This is actual clouds, people.
It's quite symbolic. And then I can do whatever I need to do, because often, I will want to do that before the little toddler's up and the day is then whooshed by, and I find that, I do get good engagement in the mornings and, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. I'm not going to not do it. But also if I don't for one morning, I'm not going to feel guilty about it. And then also in the evenings, I get a lot of DMs, like a lot of direct messages, and I try and answer everybody. And sometimes it's very, very heartfelt, and sometimes it's really hard sometimes to read some of them, and I get a lot of triggering from hearing other people's stories, but I never want to not. I feel very privileged and very lucky that people feel comfortable enough to share their stories with me. But it means at 10 o'clock I won't look at my DMs. At 10 o'clock I try not even to be on any form of social media, apart from I don't count Pinterest, so I will just scroll on Pinterest. Mindlessly I've started looking at like slime videos and cake decorating videos and random nail art and like things that I don't think I'm actually really interested in, but are just weirdly satisfying and don't take any thought. They're nothing to do with business. They just clear my mind. And so I've just started to create those little rules for myself that weren't there, which meant that there were no boundaries. I think particularly being on Instagram and being approachable on Instagram can mean, business aside, like I'm trying to run a business, but just running an Instagram account, whether you're a blogger or you've just got a message that you want to get out there, or you are a shop or a business on Instagram, or whatever you're doing on Instagram, it can be all consuming. The whole thing is designed to keep you on there.
Yes, and they're playing that Instagram game. It's one of those, like, the more you do, the more you get, and it can be so easy just to get sucked into it.
And that's what I'm finding really hard to win, that balance, to win at that. I know if I am on there all the time, commenting in my DMs, doing things, doing stories, doing stuff, and I mean constantly, I get rewarded and my content gets shown to lots more people. And if I'm not, if I'm doing the bare minimum, which is still posting and still storing and still answering people, I get pushed down. And it's really, really hard to know that and look after your mental health. It's really, really tricky.
Yeah, definitely. I've got one final question, which is, where would you like to be in 5 years' time in business and in life? Do you look that far ahead? Do you have a set of rules for yourself? Have you even ever thought about the question?
I got asked this the other day, and I really struggled with it, because as in my old life, I used to have very strict 1 year, 2 year, 5 year plans. And also the career that I was in had very structured progression. So I would know I'd know where I was on and where I was going and how I was going to get there. And there'd be very clear steps. And it's not even that I had to come up with it necessarily myself. It's like, it was a very well worn path, and everybody, we literally had pay rises every year because you're 1 year more qualified. So you're charged out at 1 year more money. And so you just know exactly where you are. So this was a really hard question for me to answer the other day. And I think I don't know where I'm going to be in 5 years' time. And I say that in that I hope that I've built this incredible empire and it's all gone swimmingly. But also in the year that I've been doing this, or a year and a bit now, it has taken me places that I never ever thought I would be doing. And I really want to stay open to those things. So to having a really set path. I've got a few things up my sleeve for next year that I'm so excited about, and I never ever would have dreamed even 6 months ago or 3 months ago. I was going to say a month, I'm not sure about that one, but like 3 months ago or 8 weeks ago that this was ever going to happen to me. So just keeping really open, but on that, always knowing what I want to be doing, and it's always going to have a thread back to maternal mental health and helping people who are going through that know that they're not alone. And doesn't matter what you look like, doesn't matter what you earn, doesn't matter what your background, what your race, religion, all of the rest of it, it can affect everybody and it's not your fault. And that is my sort of main message. So wherever it goes forward, that's going to be where I'm headed.
And how refreshing that you share that, because those people who do need to hear that, they really need to hear it loudly and to be really obvious as well. So thank you for that. That's brilliant. If people want to come and find out more or become a seller or just have a chat with you, obviously don't bombard Joe, but where should they go?
all right, just not after 10 o'clock.
Yeah,
well,
exactly.
on Instagram, we've got 2 accounts on Instagram. So I'm Lobella Loves _Joe. And then the business, which is just purely product feed, is Lobella Loves. And you can also visit the website, which is www.lobellaloves.com. And that's about it. I mean, we're on Twitter and Facebook and all the rest of it, but those are the main places to find us.
Wonderful. Thank you so much. I really love chatting, and I may be sending you an email as well, because I have some products in the mix which I don't think I've said on here yet. So watch this space. I'll share when I can. But again, it's that thing of like, it's actually a scary space for me to go into, and thinking that I guess I never thought that I would be doing something similar, but it's still very much in the planning stages, so we shall see.
Let's talk.
Yes, exactly. Thank you so much, Jo, for being a great guest.
Thank you, Nikki.
Take care. Bye. Bye. Thank you so much for listening. I hope you enjoyed it, and I would love to hear what you thought of the episode and share any takeaways with me. Come and find me across social media at Nicky Raby, or you can visit the podcast page, nickyraby.com/podcast.